Greetings, ladies and men, gentlemen. Here I am again, appearing in your ear to teach about menopause. And I just imagine you groan when you hear me, but I actually bring you all sorts of information, and some of it shocks you, right? But at least I teach you how to manage your menopause. So I hope that redeems me to some extent with you. Now, today we're going to be speaking about appearances. We're going to be talking about what appears at menopause. Now, if you've been listening to these podcasts or watching my videos or anything of the sort, you know that we're in the middle of a WHAM series, WHAM, which is an acronym for what happens at menopause. And what I'm doing is I'm grouping things according to common characteristics. All sorts of things happen at menopause. Some things dry up, some things shrink, some grow, some sag, some get harder. And the last 5 podcasts have been on each of those things. And so the next theme or grouping is going to be what appears at menopause. If you're a newcomer to my education and you're trying to get the big picture, this is actually a good podcast for you to listen to, at least in terms of basics. But it's more of a list of things that appear than it is about the specifics on each. So first, I'll just give you some background on what causes menopause in the first place. And I'm doing that simply because it's the very reason that all of these things appear. So if you look at what happens to your hormones over time when you first start entering your perimenopausal or menopausal life, the first part is a change in just one hormone. During your reproductive years, before you have any of this, you have all these really high hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, all very high. You don't have a care in the world. You have a period every month. You have a few pregnancies along the way, and you feel honky-dory. But then when you start transitioning into your second half of your life, it's your non-reproductive half of your life, and the first phase of that is called perimenopause. And perimenopause is where your progesterone drops, and that is when your wacky periods appear. Gone are the days of regular, predictable periods. Suddenly, they're longer or shorter or heavier or lighter or less frequent. And that may go on for years, but it's temporary. And then, wham, you move on to the next phase, which is post-menopause. And that is the real essence of menopause. Post-menopause is when your estrogen disappears. And the disappearance of estrogen is what makes all the things we're talking about today appear. And post-menopause is not temporary. It lasts for the rest of your life. The problem is that most people tend to think of perimenopause as the whole enchilada. They completely ignore the fact that perimenopause is just a warning that the real deal is just around the corner. And the problem with making that mistake is that you completely miss the boat on what's really at stake. With menopause, there is no such thing as been there, done that. You haven't been there, done that until you're dead. So way back in the early days of these podcasts, I talked to you about the signs and symptoms of menopause. And I presented a long list of 22 signs and symptoms of menopause. Well, the vast majority of that list is due entirely to loss of estrogen at post-menopause. And you may have some of the signs and symptoms during perimenopause, but like I said, that is just a warning for what's ahead. So, as you have your very last period, here are the things that appear. Night sweats, hot flashes, insomnia, fatigue, forgetfulness, mood swings, irritability, depression, cravings, joint pain and joint stiffness, dry skin, hair loss, whiskers and chest hair, vaginal dryness, urinary tract infections, urinary leakage, weight gain, acne, and headaches. That's an awful lot of appearances. Now, the problem is that most people won't even talk about most of them. Here you have a huge list of things that turn your life upside down, and people only talk about the hot flashes. That's just plain crazy. The hot flashes aren't even the most bothersome symptom of menopause. Vaginal dryness is a much more common problem. So let's just put this into perspective. Women focus more on perimenopause than they do on postmenopause, even though postmenopause is the big ticket item. And they talk about the hot flashes and ignore 21 other symptoms that are actually more significant. But it's even worse than that. Because nobody talks about the real facts or what really appears at menopause, most women have no idea what's happening when this long list of symptoms appears. Many women get treated for depression. Some go on ridiculous diets. Most suffer in silence. That's absurd. It's completely unfair to women. If every woman had this education, she would know exactly what's going on when these symptoms appear, and no woman would have to suffer. Each one would know how to get help on her own terms. But there's an even bigger problem. The absolute most important thing that appears at menopause is an increased risk for certain diseases that can kill you. And most women don't even know that these risks are part of menopause. Despite all those attention-getting symptoms, the appearance for a greatly increased risk of heart attack, osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's disease are the things that should be getting the most attention. I have focused a whole lot on how important it is to know about these diseases. And if you haven't listened to these podcasts in order or gone to my YouTube channel and watched the videos in order, please, please, please go back and watch the videos or listen to the podcast, because this is information that very well may save your life. Menopause isn't about the symptoms, it's about saving lives. You see, for me, everything I do with this menopause education is with the goal and the ulterior motive of saving lives. Every woman who has gotten this education, read my book, watched the webinars, attended one of my seminars, had a consultation with me, or done anything like that, says and will tell you that this education saves lives. So when it comes to heart attack, osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's, the very reason that an increased risk appears at postmenopause is because your estrogen disappears at postmenopause. It is that direct and that instantaneous in terms of one thing causing another. Your estrogen disappears and your increased risk for these diseases appears. This is undoubtedly the most important aspect of menopause. Now, there are 3 more diseases that appear at menopause, but these 3 are related to aging. They are all diseases that are more common the older you get. And they are also in the realm of gynecology. So I'm going to include them here, and I cover them in all my educational materials, my book, my webinars, videos, everything. They are uterine cancer, breast cancer, and ovarian cancer. The difference is that none of these three are due to estrogen loss. But most women have the relationship of estrogen to these diseases all mixed up and upside down, completely upside down. So here are the facts. Uterine cancer is actually caused by estrogen. That's why you have to take progesterone along with estrogen if you still have your uterus when you go through menopause. Estrogen causes uterine cancer and progesterone prevents uterine cancer. So they balance each other out. But breast and ovarian cancers are not caused by estrogen. They are caused by menstrual cycles. In other words, they're caused by the cyclic interaction of estrogen with progesterone. For them, estrogen alone poses less risk than estrogen with progesterone. So cycles are the culprit when it comes to breast and ovarian cancers. You see, knowing these things is so critical. And when you have your facts upside down, it will cause you to make decisions that make your life upside down for the second half of your life. That is why I educate you, because you need the facts. I don't care what you do for your menopause. I don't have a product to sell you. I don't have anything to push on you. I just want you to know what you're doing. Okay, so now there are actually some good things that appear at menopause. One of them is self-confidence. Yep, many women notice the appearance of self-confidence for the very first time at menopause. Without all the pressure to meet artificial standards of sexuality, they feel completely comfortable with themselves. And for some women, self-confidence appears as a result of not having to please everyone else anymore. The other wonderful thing that appears at menopause is something called menopausal zest. I talked about this a long time ago. Menopausal zest is when you direct your energy to something really, really wonderful in your menopausal years. It can be a hobby or a profession or a charity. You may start a new career. Menopausal zest is precisely what propels me to make these videos and these podcasts and write my book and do webinars for you. I'm on a mission. I'm determined to change the world and make it better for all women. It's zest. I've poured myself into creating an education that you've always deserved. And it's an education that you've waited way too much long to get. You know, I think of it somewhat as a movement, a revolution of sorts. You know how there's a Me Too movement on behalf of women who've endured sexual abuse? Well, this menopause education is a movement on behalf of women who haven't gotten the menopause education they deserve. I guess you could call it the Me Neither movement. The neglect of menopause needs to stop, and I'm determined to stop it. So in my case, menopausal zest is about menopause itself, but it can be about anything. It can be about anything that makes you feel like you are happy to be a menopausal woman and make